Hey tea heads, this is Don from Mayleaf. In this video we're going to be doing something a little bit different. In this video I'm going to be attempting to cook a dish that works really well with this cooked PuErh. This video is going to go under the tea recipes and the drinking with friends playlists. If at any point in time you enjoy this video, then please give the video the thumbs up. The more thumbs in the air, the more tea videos are going to come your way. And if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, then go click that button. I'm here with my sister.
Hi.
She's visiting and we have done videos before specifically about tea and food pairing because she's my food partner in crime, the original food partner in crime that I have. And so we've done videos about pairing tea with cheese, pairing tea with chocolate, but I thought that today we would do something completely different and we would flip it around and kind of reverse engineer it. And instead of trying to find a tea that pairs well with a food, we're going to try and make a dish that pairs perfectly with a tea. So switch it around basically. Right? And the tea that that I have chosen is this one.
What kind of tea is that?
This is a ripe PuErh tea. So this is a ripe PuErh tea. We call it Black Yunnan Tuo 98. Quickly scope the tea. This is picked in 1998. So it has been aged as well, but it's a cooked tea. So the aging doesn't have such a big factor. So spring 1998. The cultivar is the Daiyezhong Assamica cultivar. The origin is Fengqing in Yunnan province in China. The picking and processing is to pick the leaf, then it goes through this fermentation phase where they put it in a warehouse, they increase the temperature and the moisture levels, and they ferment it over a couple of months, usually something like that. So it starts to go really black, and then it's been compressed into these cakes, and that was done in 1998.
And how is it usually drunk? Is it more as a sort of digestive after eating kind of
Yeah,
thing?
I mean you can drink it by itself,
Yeah.
but it is commonly used as a digestive because it has a very kind of cleansing quality and it's good for kind of fatty foods and things like that. And the elevation is quite high altitude, it's about 2,000 meters. So we're going to try this tea.
Do you want to show this tea to the
Yeah,
camera?
go for it. You show it to the camera. We can
Focus.
bring it in a bit closer.
Quite a nice cover.
Yeah, so this is a cooked tea that we picked up. There's so many of these cooked teas on the market, but they usually are pretty bad quality, and you'll know if it kind of has a kind of fishy smell. It tends to be either not produced very well or still very young. We're going to give this at least one rinse.
Is this an expensive tea?
No, it's not an expensive tea. It's you know, it's an average price tea. So we're going to give it a good rinse because it's 1998, it's been around for a while and it's also been fermented. So we just want to kind of make sure it's kind of given that rinse just to kind of open up and get rid of any musty flavours.
So is there a right time, like the longer you leave it, it changes in taste as it ages more and more? You know, like with cheese or with wine?
Yeah, with cooked PuErh teas, the aging has an effect, but it's not as significant as with raw PuErh teas, which have not been fermented, and so they've still got so much kind of headroom to go. Yeah. So they're going to be fermented.
So this is pretty much set once it's been
baked.
Yeah,
it still does change slightly, but not as much.
Okay.
Okay, have a smell. For those of you who know cooked PuErh teas, ripe PuErh teas, you know the kind of flavour profiles, but they do vary.
It smells like wet soil.
Okay, so it's got
really
that
wet,
earthy,
musty, like soil when it's been raining, you know, in the forest. Yeah, very musty and woodland, like mushroomy.
Yeah, forest floor.
I can smell fungus.
So it's got that funk, right? It's got that woodland growth kind of funk, but I also think it has a very cavernous, wet caves, cellars.
Wet caves, definitely.
That kind of wet rock and cellars and attics and those kind of very aged. And so this is why it can so easily go wrong, because those smells can so easily turn into kind of unpleasant smells. Yeah. It needs to stay clean. It needs, even though it's got that kind of woodland aroma, you don't want it to have a kind of rotten aroma or any kind of
Yeah, I think you nailed it with the wet caves. Like a wet, musty cave with rocks by a river. You know, that sort of real sort of...
After a rainfall.
Yes.
Yeah. So I love this tea. It's a real satisfying tea. And as you said before, it's often used as a digestive, so after a meal. So I thought it'd be quite interesting to see if we can make it something that pairs with a meal.
So it's never really drunk before, as a sort of like...
No, it tends to be something that you either drink by itself, or it's something that is drunk kind of after.
That colour.
Yeah, exactly.
That's like a... Well, how do you describe that colour?
It's a kind of... It's almost like a coffee black tea, isn't it?
Yeah, I see like quite a deep
black.
ruby sort of...
Yeah. It's kind of got a cafe Americano kind of filter coffee look to it, but it's got a little bit more of a sheen. So let's give this a taste.
It's surprisingly quite clean tasting and light.
So
You know
one
what
of
I mean?
the
It doesn't actually taste musty, and
Yeah.
I was imagining it to being a lot richer and stronger and sort of, more sort of earthy, but it's actually quite clean.
And that's
light.
actually a really common theme with cooked PuErhs, with ripe PuErhs, is that the smell can sometimes be quite overpowering, but when you taste it, it's actually very fresh. It's slightly more elegant than you'd think it would be. It's cleaner. It's more cleansing. Can you feel that kind of cleansing sensation?
It's very juicy too. Mm-hmm. It's like a lot of juiciness.
So I get kind of apples, but not apples as in like, fresh fruit apples, more like apple cellar. Imagine like going into an apple cellar or a cider cellar or something like that. It has that kind of, the fruit is there, but it feels a bit aged, it feels a bit old.
I'm thinking of whiskey barrels, like a bit of a whiskey sort of Scotch sort of.
So we've got wood, we've got earth, we've got wet rocks, we've got kind of attics, we've got a little bit of leather. I think there's a slight medicinal note to it as well, a leathery kind of and a medicinal note. And a slight spice I get, like a little bit of kind of celery kind of spice, like just a little bit of medicinal herbal spices to it.
Are these the right cups to be drinking it in?
No right or wrong really.
Like I feel like I want to see the colour.
Okay,
I feel a bit annoyed that I can't see the colour.
Well, see if we can put it in a glass.
It just feels like, and probably also for viewers, we're just drinking.
Okay.
Let's just see.
You're right. There you go.
Yeah, that's it.
Take a little look.
So you'd expect that to be a lot more of a stronger brew.
Yeah,
like a lot,
go.
and it actually is quite surprising how light and refreshing it is.
So let's talk about food. Can you think
Mushrooms.
about mushrooms?
I'm just thinking mushrooms.
Okay.
I don't know what form of mushroom, but woodland sort of, probably more wild mushrooms or mushrooms that are meat.
Okay. So classically, this tea, I've tasted really good pairings with this tea and cheese.
Oh.
Funky kind of.
What kind of cheese?
Blue cheese is more down that kind of, where the...
Not like a Comté or anything like that?
I'm sure that would work, but that kind of, it's a bit more aged, a bit more fermented.
Like a good cheddar, like a strong cheddar with all this.
Cheeses in general work well with this, and I think that would have been too easy to do.
Yeah.
I also think that it would pair very well with some desserts, because you know how mushrooms and chocolate, those truffle kind of tastes, work really well with chocolate and malt. I think that could have worked. So I was toying with this tea and thinking maybe we could do something dessert-like. I think this is quite a versatile tea. I think it could be paired with quite a few different things.
If you were going to do a main course or a savoury dish, should it have a bit of sweetening in the dish to balance out with the...
Well, this is my thinking.
How would you...
So, one of the classic combinations with this tea is with Chenpi, which is like an aged medicinal orange in China. So taking orange skin, but Chenpi is like a kind of tangerine, and then aging it so it becomes kind of slightly more medicinal. You mix it with that and it makes a beautiful contrast of this kind of sweet, a little bit of mimicking these kind of aged tastes, but very kind of bright. So it adds that little brightness and a bit of kind of citrus to it, but not in a kind of over the top way. So I'm thinking that the sweetness that we should put into this
to balance. So you're using basically sweetness in the cooking to balance.
Yeah. So what I'm thinking is that we're going to make a dish that is kind of more matched pairing. So trying to kind of mimic a lot of the notes, but also stray a little bit to try and stretch the boundaries a little bit of it, right? And I know that orange works well with it, so I'm thinking of including orange in. I agree with you that mushrooms, I wanted to include mushrooms to kind of to accentuate that forest flora, hopefully get a nice pairing there. And I think because this tea is so cleansing and so kind of very kind of all strips away grease, that we should therefore hit it with quite a fatty food. Like give it something that's got some body, got some richness, so that we can really show off the kind of cleansing nature of this tea as well. The kind of the opposite to a match pairing, that kind of contrast in terms of in the mouth. So my plan, and we've got to, this is a bit hit and miss.
Okay.
But my plan is to make beef short ribs, kind of marinated or braised with orange. So orange and beef short ribs, and try to pull out some of the kind of spices that are in this tea as well. What do you think?
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so.
And mushroom, you can put mushrooms.
I'm going to put mushrooms, but I'm going to not put it in the braising liquid. I'll show you in a bit. I've got an idea for mushrooms.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so we've tasted the tea. Let's get on with cooking. Here we go. Okay, so just quick run through of the ingredients that we have here. I've tried to keep it relatively simple in terms of the ingredients, not too complicated. We've got some short ribs here, 1.5 kilos of short ribs. I've trimmed them down so that we take away, because it's quite a fatty piece of meat. So trim off any excess fat, any of that silver skin, so that it's lean. There's enough fat in that meat that's still going to be very, very succulent and juicy. We've got some celery here. Don't worry if you're not a real celery lover, this isn't going to taste a lot of celery, but I find that tea has a slight kind of celery spiciness, and I want to try and bring that out. We've got some ginger, some spring onions or scallions. We've got a couple of onions here. We've got fennel bulb, some garlic, some coriander, and an orange, and then we've got some mushrooms there. And then we've got some spices, but we'll go through that. Let's just start, I think.
I'm interested in your choice of mushrooms. I thought you'd choose something a bit more woodlandy.
Yeah. Well, yes, and I did think about that. But what I wanted to try to do was not overpower, because I'm actually going to pickle those mushrooms. And so the thinking behind it is, with pickled mushrooms, is that you want a very kind of fleshy mushroom. You want something that's quite firm. Otherwise it's going to just kind of go soggy. Now these onions, you don't have to chop them fine, because this is all going to be part of the braising liquor. And then what we want to do is a couple of cloves of garlic, I think. Nothing too heavyweight. Just, again, roughly chopped, nothing complicated at all. Just keep it very simple. Starting to cry a bit from these onions. And then what we've got is a couple of celery. Just chop these off here. Oh my god, these onions are making me cry. Hold on, let me just put this, throw this away, and then put these onions away. They're gonna make me cry otherwise.
So are you gonna slowly cook down those onions, caramelize them?
We're gonna braise them. We're gonna use it as the braising liquor. Let me put these far away, otherwise we're gonna end up in tears. Okay, so yeah, some celery, again, just roughly chopped, nothing fancy at all. There you go.
Is it gonna be like a... What other flavours other than the orange and the
So we're going to put some star anise in.
Alright, so that's going to add a bit of sweetness.
Yeah, so this is, vaguely kind of moving towards Asian food. I mean, star anise, ginger, it's quite classic combinations. We're going to put some soy in it. So we're not, challenging things too much. Ginger, easiest way to peel ginger is with a spoon.
Is it?
Yeah.
Why is it easy?
It just comes off, the skin comes off so easily when you just use a spoon.
I never knew that.
Yeah. A little tip I picked up from a friend of mine called Ching, another chef. Ching He Huang. She taught me that one. You could actually leave the skin on, to be fair. It wouldn't be disastrous. Again, keep it very rustic, nothing special. That goes in. Right, what else do we have? Okay, so for this fennel, what I would like to do...
So fennel's going to give us sort of aniseedy.
Yeah, so with the star anise and the fennel, that works really well with orange. They're very classic combinations. I want to save these little fronds. I love these, and these look really pretty, so I'm going to put them here.
What, save it for decoration?
Yeah, save it for decoration. And then I'm going to take these rough parts off, put them in the braising liquor. And now I've got a mandolin. You could use a knife. And we just want to shave off, I would say, half of this. So I'm just going to take off half. Be careful, fingers always with mandolins. Make sure that you're very careful. So that's about half. I'm keeping half here. And we're just going to roughly chop this one. So this is again for the braising liquor. Nothing complicated. Throw that in there. And I also want to take, so can you take some of those celery leaves? You see those celery leaves over there?
Yep.
And you pick some of them off and put them in the bowl. So this is going to be like a little fresh salad that goes with it. So these short ribs, we're just going to braise them very, very simply. And you can then you can use them for whatever you want. So you might, want to serve it as a main dish. My idea here is to make something a little bit more delicate, a little bit more fresh, something that I think is going to pair very well with the tea. A couple of scallions, just give them a little bit more of a fine chop. So we're going to just kind of, this is going to be part of the pickling liquor. All right, so now what we're going to do, can you put some cold water on that? Fill it up with cold water. So when you take fennel or you take any herbs like that and you put cold water, what happens is the water goes into the sliced fennel, the celery leaves, and it really puffs it up and it makes it very rigid and crispy and crunchy. So you can quite happily leave the fennel in the water for a few hours, 5-6 hours. Cold water, keep it in the fridge, and it will go very crispy, and you'll see that these will start to curl up and really kind of go crispy, and that's a really nice way to kind of serve your crispy vegetables raw. Okay, so what we've got is here some corn flour. This is where I make a bit of a mess, but it's okay.
What about braising the actual meat in the tea?
Okay, so that's what I'm planning to do.
Ooh, okay.
I am planning to actually put some tea in this. And this was kind of part of the original thinking. I was originally thinking, let's do some videos about cooking with tea, and I was thinking about recipes that work well with tea. But actually, I was thinking that's a bit restrictive and a little bit kind of convoluted. The most important thing is, let's make a dish that works well with the tea. If that involves cooking with it, then great. If not, then, we can just do it like that. Okay, so some corn flour, a good pinch of salt. You can't skimp on seasoning when it comes to big chunks of meat like that, because the seasoning doesn't go into the meat, so you need to almost make it over seasoned on the outside so that it's balanced out. So I'm not going to skimp on seasoning here. And now just simple dusting. Want to give it a nice crust, and you really want to make sure that these ribs are at room temperature. Don't, take them out of the fridge early, unwrap them. If you cook from fridge cold, it just doesn't work as well, in my opinion. Right, the pan is on a medium-high heat. You want to get this hot, but you don't want to get it so hot that it's just going to end up smoking everywhere. It probably still will smoke everywhere, so get ready. The frying of this is a really important part of the process, just to give it that caramelized taste. So we're going to get some groundnut oil. Make sure you use an oil that can go to high temperature. You don't want to use something that is going to not oxidize, but burn. So that is not good for you. And then So a little bit of oil, and then we're going to go in meat side down. We want to build up a crust on every single surface here. Let's quickly talk about some of the other things that we're using here. I have Shaoxing wine, classic, necessary part of any kind of kitchen, isn't it? For any Asian cooking, this is the best thing for stir frying, Shaoxing wine. If you don't have it, you could use a sherry, but it's not quite the same thing. We've got some light soy sauce. We've got some black rice vinegar, Chinkiang vinegar. I love this stuff. Great for making with, dipping with dumplings, making a dumpling dip, but really nice also just to give it that kind of, it's got more of an earthy, savoury sourness rather than a classic kind of white wine vinegar or apple cider vinegar, which is a lot sharper. We've got some Sichuan peppercorns here, which I really love, a little zing, a little bit of a zing. I'm not going to put any chili in this, even though I'm addicted to chili. We're going to keep this simple. We've got some rock sugar here. I don't know how much this is. We'll try and put all the quantities, estimated quantities, in the description below. But this is, you know, a fair chunk of rock sugar. You can use caster sugar, but I find this stuff just has a slightly more rounded, fuller flavour. And we've got a few little pieces of star anise here as well. Let's quickly take a look at how these guys are doing.
Oh yeah,
that's starting to look good.
You're also going to be careful you don't burn it.
Yeah, you don't want to burn it. Thank you. That's perfect, you see? Nice, deep, kind of nutty brown. And it's worth taking your time. If you're going to be cooking more than this, then fry it up in batches. Don't try and overload. This is as full as the pan should be. Work on your heat. Make sure you're kind of looking at it. If it's looking like it's kind of, the sound is starting to die down and it's not sizzling, then turn up the heat. Always, you know, this is your control knob. It's very important that you know, react to what's happening in the pan and just make sure you give it a good sear, a good nutty sear.
Could this be done with pork ribs, you think, or other, you know, you don't want to eat beef?
Yeah, I think with pork ribs would be quicker because these are big hunky chunks of meat, so this is going to take a good few hours to cook, so it would be quicker. If you were going to do it, I would do it with the breast ribs rather than the baby back ribs, because the baby back ribs are there's not enough meat on them. If you're going to braise, I would braise it with the chunkier.
What about lamb ribs?
Potentially, lamb is a very strong flavour. I'm not sure how that would work with the tea, but it might work. Or you could probably do this with pork belly or a similar kind of cut of pork, kind of a fattier cut of pork.
Pork belly would be good.
Could work really well.
Especially if you're braising it.
But then I would switch it. I would switch, instead of orange, I would switch to apple, which would work, I think, very well with this tea as well. That appley kind of apple cellar kind of taste. It might really work well with that. So there's lots of experimentations. And you see how the bone is already starting to retract. So the idea here is that it's got to be so pork tender that you can just, you know, pull out the bone. Classic short rib. You don't want any chew at all. This has to be very, very succulent.
Do you think this dish could work well with oxtail?
Oxtail is even more kind of bovine in its taste.
And it's got that gelatinous.
Yeah. It could work really with that sticky kind of texture. It could. And I think that it's nice to use these rich cuts of meat, these kind of more relatively inexpensive. I mean, short ribs are starting to become a bit more expensive, but more cheaper cuts of meat that have fat and require that braising. And I think it's nice to use them for starters. I actually think it's nice that you don't overwhelm people with a big chunk of, you know, which is, you know, too much. But, you know, depending on how you're feeling. Okay, I think that these are now done, right? So I'm going to turn the heat off. And what we're going to do, look how beautiful golden brown this is. I'm going to drip fat everywhere. Can you focus in on that, Celine? Right, that's what you want. You want that caramelized, really dark, noisette, nutty brown, okay? All right, so we're going to put these into a baking tray. And I'm going to put them flesh side down, so bone side up. Because I want the braising liquor to braise the meat.
Penetrate the meat.
Right. Now with this fat, you could potentially strain off some of the fat and use some of this kind of the meat flavor, but I actually think that this is, you know, because of the high heat, I don't like to do that, and there's enough flavor in this, so we're not going to do that. I have a little bowl here to collect the fat, so we're not going to pour this down the sink, and we're just going to...
Oh. I could just sit here sniffing.
It's quite smoky in here.
It smells so good.
Alright, so we're going to put this aside. And now we've still got a little bit of residual fat in here. Not too much. And now what we're going to do is we're going to throw in all of these braising vegetables. So really, really simple. You know what you could do?
Yeah.
Could you unwrap another tea? Put it in there and throw in some hot water. Okay, so we've got the ginger, we've got the onions, we've got the celery, we've got the fennel, and we've got some garlic in here. Very, very simple. We're gonna throw in a little bit of salt, and that's not really to flavor it too much, but really just to start to bring out some of the liquid from the vegetables so that it doesn't caramelize. I want to keep this kind of relatively light. I don't want too much browning on it. We're going to throw in star anise. These like broken up ones here. I would say 2 star anise would be fine, and that will add a whole umami element to it. So we're going to throw in some Sichuan peppercorns now. Don't worry about, you know, the fact that these spices are loose. We're going to strain this liquor out anyway, so it's not like you're going to have bits of Sichuan peppercorn in your mouth. Oh, now you're getting those smells.
That smells good.
Yeah, just the simple act of frying ginger, garlic, onions. My mum always used to say to me, if you want to pretend you cooked, you know, if you invite guests over and you want to pretend you cooked, all you need to do is fry 1 onion. That's it. People will always come in and go, oh, it smells so good in here. Now I'm going to throw in this rock sugar.
Well, it's a lot of sugar, no?
Well, it's, you know, it's a fair amount of meat. If you serve it the way that we're going to serve it, then it's going to be carb free anyway. You're not going to have it with any pasta, polenta. This would work really well with steamed rice and some bok choy. Or you could potentially shred this and make a pasta dish with it, or a noodle dish, an Asian noodle dish could work well with it. Something like that. So orange. This is the extra component that we want to add here. So this has been washed already. So I'm going to put an entire orange worth in terms of peel in here. Oh.
So you're putting all the zest in?
Yeah, put all the zest in. Turn this heat down a little bit. Can you stir? I just don't want anything to catch, don't want anything to burn. I can see those onions are starting to look a little bit brown. Okay, so there's all of the orange in there, and immediately the smell is changing, fragrance. Now we're going to go in with some Shaoxing wine. I'm terrible with measurements, but let's say... I would guess that was about 1 cup, 150, 200 mil.
A generous glug.
A generous glug. Always good to put your alcohol in first. You want to just get the alcohol, that acrid kind of alcohol off, and it starts to soften everything. Now you could use Chenpi, you could use the aged one. It's quite expensive, so I'm not sure if you'd really want to, but you know, you can. But I think that this fresh one is going to work.
Now, tell me about this aged one. I don't think I've tried this aged one, have I?
It's a Chinese herb. So aged Chenpi.
Dried.
It's dried, yeah. It's a dried Chinese herb.
And has it got medicinal properties to it?
My hands are clean, by the way.
Has it got medicinal properties, the dried herb?
Oh, Celine has pulled something out of the cupboard. You can take a look.
Oh. What's it used for? Is it used in Chinese medicine?
Yeah, it's used in Chinese medicine.
Oh yeah, it's like dried.
Have a sniff of it. It's more medicinal, isn't
and
it?
it's sweeter.
Yeah.
Right?
Sweet aged medicinal. It's got that. This is an old one. This is about 7 years old, I think.
So they can see what it looks like. Got it? So, how old would this be when you say it's aged?
That's about 7 years.
So does it change the longer it's aged?
Yeah. Changes the flavour, and according to Chinese medicine, changes the medicinal. Alright, so now swap places. Make sure the heat is quite high. We're going to throw in some Chinkiang vinegar. So I would say about a quarter of a cup, maybe 100 ml. And that's just going to put a bit more in. That's going to give it the sourness, which is really important to kind of cut through as well.
So you don't have to be too religious about how much goes in, as long as it gives a...
No, just use your... It's not going to be the end of the world.
I know, but for people who don't really know the flavours,
yeah,
working with...
As I said, we'll try to estimate the quantities in the description below, so you'll have some idea of amounts. Okay, so now let's quickly give this a little taste.
Ouch.
Salty, get the ginger, get the star anise. It's going to build, right? Okay, so tea. Let's get the tea in. Let's strain it in. So if I hold this over, you can strain that in. And we can obviously use this tea again if you wanted, but it's quite a strong extraction here. There you go. Perfect. All right, so there is a braising liquor, and I think that that's probably ready. So what we want to do is take these ribs here, and I'm just going to literally pour this.
So it's not as sweet as I thought it would be.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the rock sugar's still kind of melting.
Yeah, and I'm sure once it cooks together and it sort of starts to reduce, we'll get a bit sweeter, but...
So there you go, braising liquor is in, very, very simple. Make sure that the vegetables go into the liquor because you want to continue that flavouring, and make sure that the liquor needs to come up at least, I would say at least halfway up the meat. It doesn't have to completely cover it, because what we're going to be doing is we're going to be covering this tightly with foil, and that means that it's going to essentially steam the meat as well as braise it. All right, really tight. Make sure you don't allow...
Well, a lot of foil.
Yeah, you want to make sure you don't allow any, as little air going in and out as possible, because if you do, the steam will escape, the liquid will dry out, and you potentially could get burnt or like dried meat. And we're going to put this in an oven at 150 degrees Celsius, which is about 300 Fahrenheit. So low heat, yeah? And the trick here is to make sure that it's slow, that the meat doesn't dry out. Because if you start to throw it into hot oven, what's going to happen? The meat's going to contract. It's going to, all the water's going to boil out of the meat, or it's going to escape from the meat.
Yeah.
And even if you've covered this really well, you're going to get drier meat. So keep it slow. That way you have much more room for error. You can leave it for 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours. I think this is going to take about 3 hours. And you can just keep checking it. And when essentially you can stick a fork in and it just effortlessly slides in without any resistance at all, then it's ready. So we're going to put this in the oven.
You could probably make this the night before and then heat it up the following day.
Definitely, definitely. In fact, if you're going to do this, I would actually advise it. This takes all the hassle out of cooking on the day that people are coming.
It's tastier too, isn't it?
Yeah, if it sits in the braising liquor, it's definitely good. Okay, so that's in the oven, 3 hours, and now we're going to move on to making the pickled mushrooms. Right, pickled mushrooms, which is really, you should do this a couple of days before, ideally. You can do it the same day, it's not going to have the same kind of taste, so I would advise doing it a couple of days before. I've got a jar here. Make sure you've got a heat-safe jar like a proper kiln jar or mason jar, and it's been sterilized in hot water. So this is sterile. And all that we're going to do is we are literally, this is so simple, we are going to chop up some of these coriander stalks. I love coriander stalks. It really annoys me when people throw them away because they have just as much flavor as the leaf. So we're going to throw those in there.
The smell of coriander too.
Yeah, amazing. And with these ones, we're going to put them in that because that's going to be part of our salad.
Oh my god, look how that's gotten so hard.
Yeah, can you see how it's curled up and become hard? It becomes
amazing.
really rigid. Try it. You can see how crispy it is. It's really crispy, isn't it? That's such a, like, if you're going to make fennel salad, any salad, just put it in cold. You can put some ice in there to keep it cold. Put it in cold water, and it just firms up really well.
What other vegetables does that work with?
You could do it with
carrots.
Yeah, very thin carrots. No. Anything that can absorb the water. Yeah, but I love using fennel. Fennel's a great one. So I'm chopping these button mushrooms. These are just very simple button mushrooms. As I said, you want to try and find a quite fleshy mushroom. And I'm intentionally chopping them quite thick. You see? So I'm kind of putting it, what would you say that is? Nearly a centimetre kind of thickness. So what I want to do is try to estimate about a quarter of this of vinegar. So ideally, actually, you could have done this in the jar before you put the put it in, but it's not a big deal. So there you go. We do that, and then what we need.
And vinegar, rice wine vinegar.
I picked rice wine vinegar because again, I want to try and keep it with that Asian kind of
But
taste
it could be with. You could experiment with other vinegars.
Yeah. You could experiment with white wine vinegar. You could experiment with apple cider vinegar.
I was going to say apple cider with that belly pork.
Yeah, and again, if I was cooking with pork, I probably would. So I've put about double the amount of vinegar, double the amount of vinegar as water. So whatever the vinegar amount was, double the amount. I'm going to put these scallions in here. I want to throw in some black peppercorns just to give it a little bit of spice. And also it's quite nice when they pickle, you can kind of bite them, they go soft, so they give you a little nice bite. You know what? Let's put a few Sichuan peppercorns in just to kind of amplify that.
Can't resist, can you?
Can't resist.
A few.
Such a love. A little sprinkle of that. And what we would do is now we're going to bring this to the boil. Oh, salt, very important. A good whack of salt, so quite a large pinch of salt goes in. So it's the salt, the vinegar, the water, the coriander, the mushrooms here. We're going to bring this to the boil, and then we're going to turn it down, put the mushrooms in, let them simmer for about 5-10 minutes, just so that they're starting to cook through, and then we pour them into the jar, let it cool down, and then leave it.
So I have a question. What about if someone doesn't want to use mushrooms? They don't like mushrooms, they're allergic to mushrooms or whatever. What is an alternative to mushroom being pickled? What other pickled thing could work?
You could do pickled vegetables, like you could do pickled eggplant, aubergine. You could do pickled courgettes. You could do anything that has a kind of fleshiness to it. You could do pickled onions. Pickled onions could be quite nice. You could do pickled fennel. You could do pickled celery. You could anything that has crunch and bite would.
What about pickled cucumber or something?
Yeah. Which is commonly called a pickle. So yeah, you could do that. These have been about 5 minutes simmering. So now what we're going to do is get a ladle and carefully, without making a mess, transfer these mushrooms with all of the spices. You know, this is all part of the pickling liquor. But get the mushrooms in first, so you're not putting too much liquid in, and then you can top up with the liquor.
So you want them submerged in liquor?
Yeah, you want them, submerged, but most important thing is get all the mushrooms in first. I don't want to waste any. As I said, this jar has been sterilized, okay? So make sure that you have a sterile jar. Just pour hot water in over the lid, etc. Let it sterilize. Okay, so this is...
Oh wow, pack them in.
Now, we're just going to top it up with some liquor. Some of this pickling liquor. Until we get to the top.
Best left at room temperature to pickle?
You're going to have to leave this at room temperature now.
Yeah.
Until it's just hot, be careful. Until it's cool to the touch, or at least it's handleable, and then you can put it in the fridge. Yeah? So this, ideally, you're looking at around 2 to 3 days. Preferably, but if you can't wait like us and you're not prepared, then at least a day would be good. You know, it's not the end of the world otherwise.
Or if you're doing it the day before this whole
Yeah,
dish, then
exactly,
it's easy.
that's perfect. The meat has been in the oven for 3 hours exactly. Let's take a look. You need to obviously do it by eye. There are no strict rules. It depends on the size of the meat. It depends on the consistency of the meat. Let's open this up. Get ready for steam. Wow. Okay. And then a little test. Let's just take a spoon here. Flip these around and see. Yeah. See, that's the spoon is just going straight in. I don't know if Celine, if you can see it. So now what we want to do is we want to transfer this meat back into the oven. I've turned the oven off, but we just want to keep it warm while we prepare the sauce, the glaze. Oh look, see what I mean?
So
that's what you want, right? Bone coming off like that. I'll put that over there. So these are definitely fork tender, ready to go. In fact, let's just take the bone directly out.
Slice it out.
Just slide it out like that. And we're gonna, as I said, you can serve these as a main course, so then you could serve it on the bone if you wanted. But there's this like tendon part here, or there's an area which basically is holding it to the bone, and that can be quite tough and not very nice. So I like to take it off the bone. So we're just gonna wrap these up. Keep them warm. It's always good to rest your meat after any kind of cooking. It just settles the meat, firms it up, makes sure that it stays juicy. So we're just going to put that in the oven, which is switched off. So there's no heat. I mean, there's only residual heat there. All right, now what we want to do, you can just hold that there, is we're going to strain this
dying to taste that
sauce. Well, this is, this is where you need to start to really focus in on getting the right flavor profiles, because we were very liberal with our measurements of soy sauce, Shaoxing wine, etc. Now it's about really tweaking it to your tastes. If you can just
mulch that down,
but don't press too hard, because if you do, sometimes you pull out too much of the bitter notes of the orange peel.
I mean, I'd want to eat this bit too.
Yeah, I know, but all these root vegetables, they've done their job. They've really added all the aroma in. I know that there's a temptation.
Just have a little problem.
There you go. She can't resist. I'll do the rest. So now what we want to do is create a very thick glaze. What we're going to do is make a glaze, not a sauce so much, kind of in between a glaze and a sauce, I guess. Something that is just going to be sticky and, coat the meat in a really nice way.
So can really smell the oranges, can't you?
Yeah, the orange is there. As I said, I don't want to do too much, because you can sometimes extract some of the bitterness, but definitely give it a wipe underneath. Now, with short ribs or any other fatty meat, there's going to be fat which comes to the top. The best thing to do would be to leave this in a bowl and let the fat solidify, and then you can scrape it off. But we don't have time for that, so I am going to move this away.
Should I show the...
Yeah, what we're going to do is pour it into here.
Okay. Pour it directly in?
Yeah, pour it directly in. So this is a little nifty device to separate the fat from the jus. You may have seen these before. If you give it a second, the fat will rise to the top and the little spout here will hopefully collect most of the jus. It's really, actually there isn't much fat. I did trim most of the fat off and we didn't put any of the fat from the cooking process in this at all. But you can see it's starting to separate out. Right, so the fat is separating off. It's not going to be perfect, but it's going to be
so
pretty
this is
good.
Specifically designed for this?
Yeah, it's a fat separating thing. So basically, as I pour it, it's going to take from the bottom before the top. So
okay.
Let's do that. See, the fat stays.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And just when you start to see the fat coming through, like there, I'm going to stop. Leave that. It's done. And now it's about reducing and tasting. And tasting is the key here. We're going to have to really get the right concentration of flavor. Remember, this is meant to be a rich dish. It's meant to be small but rich. So we want this to be very flavorful. It's hot. So as it reduces down, it's going to get more and more salty. So at the moment, it doesn't have much salt.
So orangey. Can we taste those orange and star anise?
I'm going to put a bit more vinegar because I think it needs a bit more sourness in there. So some black vinegar goes in. I do think it needs a little bit more salt.
Yeah, I agree.
So we're going to put some salt in. This has to be done to taste. There's no point in me trying to give you fixed recipes for this. This is really down to taste. And you want to reduce it down so it becomes glossy. Now you could add some butter, you know, to kind of gloss it, you know, where they monte en beurre or beurre. But, or you could, in China, they would add a bit of corn flour and water. But let's see, as it might have enough corn flour. Remember, we dusted the meat in corn flour. I don't like to add too much corn flour because what happens is it actually starts to dilute the taste. So you get the texture, but you lose some of the flavor. Okay, while that's reducing, why don't we focus in on this salad? So make sure that this is dry. If you've got one of those salad spinners, then it's kind of, that would be useful. Pretty good. A couple of drops water left, but that's pretty dry. Okay, the little glaze is starting to get nice and glossy. Keep that going. Let's give it a taste. Much saltier now, much more flavorful, much more concentrated. Okay, so we're going to finish this off and we're going to keep it really, really simple. I'm really conscious about letting the meat be the star of the show. So we're going to put a bit of salt in here, just a little bit, just to make sure you enhance the flavor. Oh, we've got the pickled mushrooms. Okay, so this was the pickled mushrooms that I made yesterday. But
let's have a look at them.
There we go, you can see. Let me wash this.
Oh yeah.
So they're kind of nice and firm.
Smells very
good. What we're going to do, let's take some nice, see if you can find some nice fronds of the fennel, because we can use that to garnish the meat. Yeah, so let's pick off some of these. I love these fronds, they're so beautiful. And they have so much flavor and they're really delicate and beautiful, very pretty. That's going to work well, I think, against the brown color of the meat. So we just do that. Put that on the side. And now what we're going to do is we're going to take some of these mushrooms. And don't worry about putting some of the peppercorns in. I think that's quite nice. Adds a little bit of something interesting as well. So put some pickled mushrooms in here. And I think just a little bit of the jus, a little bit of the pickling juice, just as a kind of dressing. If you toss that together a little bit, you can use your hands. Okay. Good, right, so that's done. If you move that to one side, let's take the meat out. And let's think about how we're going to serve this.
It's thickened nicely, hasn't it?
That's nicely thickened, yeah. You can take a little look at this at this jus here, this sauce. It's kind of still a sauce. You could thicken it more if you wanted to. If you really wanted a sticky glaze, you could. As I said, you could add the corn flour slaked with a bit of water, and that would be fine as well. Okay, so we're going to take this one, put it down here. We'll wrap those up. Okay, so what you want to do is take off this layer here where the bone has been in, right?
Yeah.
Ideally, you'd let it rest a bit longer, but you see how easy that comes off? Now, there is meat on here. You can flake that meat off. So you could easily flake that meat off. And as I said, that would be amazing for like a noodle dish or something. Imagine some sort of beef noodle dish. So you just want to make sure you take off all of that, because that can be not chewy so much, but a different texture. And now we need to decide really what a portion size is. I was saying a couple per plate, but what we're going to do is we're going to take a plate out here. Okay. And what we're going to do, I think, you know, you can serve it like that, just a nice piece of meat, and it's nice to have that feeling of digging into the meat, but it's quite nice to allow the sauce to go in and the jus to go in.
Yeah.
So I personally think if you're going to do it as a salad, is just a couple of slices to just break it in a little bit.
Looks good.
All right, see how soft it is. It's almost falling apart. That's what I mean. If you left it a little while, then it would firm up a little bit more. So there you go. And then we're going to take a spoon. And we're going to take some of this sauce here, glaze. We're just going to. Oh, now it's really thick and dark.
It's a great.
And now we're just going to really give it a
That's
nice,
delicious.
Generous. Not too much. You don't want it leaking all over the place, but enough so it soaks into all of the meat. Get some of this. You know, get it nice bit of volume here. Put it next to it, like that. And then we finish off with some of these little fronds.
Let's turn it so the camera can see.
Finish off with some of these fronds, just to give it a little bit of extra.
That looks delicious.
And there you have what I hope is going to be a really nice starter to pair with our Black Yunnan Tuo. So, let's taste.
Now?
Yeah.
Okay.
The moment of truth. This has been an interesting experiment. So let's taste the dish without the tea first, see what we think of it. Make sure you get some mushrooms, you get some of the celery, you get some of everything.
So all in one bite?
Yeah, you know, this is like a starter meal. Oh, that's how it should flake off.
Juice though. Oh, look at that.
So get some something, yeah, get something fresh. Perfect. See what you think of it. I've never made this before, so I'm kind of intrigued myself. Make sure you get everything, get a mushroom.
Mushroom there.
Oh, I love short rib when it's done this way. The orange and the beef work really, really well together.
You can taste all the aniseed too, and the celery, who brings out the sort of something of the celery, the freshness.
Yeah, gives it a slight spice,
You need
a bit
that.
herbaceous.
Yeah.
Okay, let's try it with the tea. Oh, it's so sticky and
Unctuous.
unctuous is the word. Okay, so now this is the real test. Making a nice dish is one thing, but whether or not it works well with the tea. Go for it. Take a little bit more. I'm gonna throw a few more mushrooms in here. I was a bit stingy with the mushrooms, so let me put some more in. Try it with the tea, see if it works with the tea. Kind of nervous. How is it?
It's really good.
Do they work with each other?
They do. It's like the earthy tea. It's such an earthy dish, but you have these top notes of all these fennel and this sort of crunch coming through. And then the orange. It brings out the orange in there. You taste it with that. Can we taste the sweetness of the dish?
That works. Like you say, the earthiness and the kind of woodsy base notes of the beef with this really works. The fattiness of the beef really works well with it. This is a real nice cleansing counterpoint to the fattiness. But those top notes, the orange and the fennel tops, and the zing of that pickle, the pickled juice, I think makes a big difference. Should we put more sauce on? I think
you can really taste the star anise in there. You know, the star anise and the orange, and it really tastes it once you've had this sip of the tea. It really comes out.
So the orange and the PuErh is a classic combination. It really...
If I have a sip of that.
I'm just going to taste the sauce with it.
And then try the sauce.
Oh, it's such a powerful sauce. Oh yeah. You get the real kind of brightness of the orange, but because the orange has been cooked, it's still kind of softened slightly. It's not too kind of over the top in terms of its aromatics.
Caramelly, almost like a caramelized orange taste to it.
I'm interested in these celery tops. Try
it's so soft the meat. Look at that.
Celery tops. Yeah, it brings out the celery, the spiciness in the tea.
Oh, so good together. Almost like the fattiness of the meat is diluted by this, something like a palate cleanser, where you feel like it allows you to have this sort of fatty meat. It's almost, do you know what I'm saying?
I can imagine that you could eat this quite happily with this tea and not feel like overwhelmed with richness, because it's quite a rich dish. Yeah. With the not just the fatty meat, but also the sauce, this sticky kind of caramelized orange sauce. But definitely, it cuts it really nicely. Yeah. It really cuts it nicely. Oh, I'm really chuffed with that. I'm really happy. That's I think, so a success. Delicious. I think you guys, if you're feeling up for it, should maybe give this a go. You feel free to tweak the recipe. Let me know how you tweak the recipe. I'd be very interested to see what you come up with. I'm not saying it's absolutely perfect. Maybe there's a way that you could bring out even more notes of the tea, but it's a pretty good combination. I'd be very happy being served that. One more. And nice as a salad.
And you want to drink it, eat it in combination with the tea.
Yeah.
I'm reaching for the tea. I want to have that combo.
The tea brings out more of the woodsiness, more of that forest floor. It makes the mushrooms taste more mushroomy than just button mushrooms. It works very well.
So good.
But you could use this, as I said, you could serve it with rice. It would work really well with rice if you wanted to serve it as a main dish. And maybe some simple bok choy or something like that, cooked with a bit of garlic. Very, very simple.
Even in a toasted sandwich.
Oh yeah, toasted sandwich. You could shred it. You could put it in. You could stuff it into cannelloni pasta and make a kind of slightly Asian style pasta dish. That could work very well. Or you could make a noodle dish. Like you could fry up a bit more of the Sichuan peppercorns and make a more spicy chili noodle dish with that shredded beef. So it's really, really versatile, this braised beef. But I think as a salad, it works really nicely. It's a very nice, rich, but light way to start a meal. Yeah. So if you guys like these kinds of videos and you want me to do more cooking videos, please do let me know. I can do more, and let me know in the comments section below, and we can plan other ones if you're interested. But I think this has been a success.
Delicious.
I'm very happy. I'm very, very happy. Well, that's it, tea heads. If you made it to the end of this video, then please give the video the thumbs up. Check out our YouTube playlist and let us know if there are any videos that you'd like us to make. If you're ever in London, then come visit us in Camden to say hi and taste our wares. If you have any questions or comments, then please fire them over. Other than that, this is Lizelle. I'm Don from Mayleaf. Thank you for being part of the revelation of true tea. Stay away from those tea bags. Keep drinking and eating the good stuff. Spread the word, because nobody deserves bad tea. Bye.
Bye.